The Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, commonly known as the Non-Proliferation Treaty or NPT, is an international treaty whose objective is to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and weapons technology, to promote cooperation in the peaceful uses of nuclear energy, and to further the goal of achieving nuclear disarmament and general and complete disarmament. Opened for signature in 1968, the treaty entered into force in 1970. On the 11th of May 1995, the treaty was extended indefinitely. More countries have adhered to the NPT than any other arms limitation and disarmament agreement, a testament to the treaty's significance. A total of 191 states have joined the treaty, though North Korea, which acceded to the NPT in 1985 but never came into compliance, announced its withdrawal in 2003. 4 UN member states have never joined the NPT: India, Israel, Pakistan and South Sudan. The treaty recognizes 5 states as nuclear weapon states: the United States, Russia, the United Kingdom, France, and China. 4 other states are known or believed to possess nuclear weapons. India, Pakistan and North Korea have openly tested and declared that they possess nuclear weapons, while Israel is intentionally ambiguous regarding its nuclear weapons program. The NPT is often seen to be based on a central bargain. The NPT non-nuclear weapons states agree never to acquire nuclear weapons, and the NPT nuclear weapon states in exchange agree to share the benefits of peaceful nuclear technology and to pursue nuclear disarmament aimed at the ultimate elimination of the nuclear arsenals. The treaty is reviewed every 5 years in meetings called review conferences of the parties to the Treaty of Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. Even though the treaty was originally conceived with a limited duration of 25 years, the signing parties decided, by consensus, to extend the treaty indefinitely and without conditions during the review conference in New York City on the 11th of May 1995, culminating successful U.S. government efforts led by Ambassador Thomas Graham Jr. At the time the NPT was proposed, there were predictions of 25 to 30 nuclear weapon states within 20 years. Instead, over 40 years later, 5 states are not parties to the NPT, and they include the only 4 additional states believed to possess nuclear weapons. Several additional measures have been adopted to strengthen the NPT and the broader nuclear non-proliferation regime and make it difficult for states to acquire the capability to produce nuclear weapons, including the export controls of the Nuclear Suppliers Group and the enhanced verification measures of the IAEA Additional Protocol. Critics argue that the NPT cannot stop the proliferation of nuclear weapons at the motivation to acquire them. They express disappointment with the limited progress on nuclear disarmament, where the 5 authorized nuclear weapons states still have 22,000 warheads in their combined stockpile and have shown a reluctance to disarm. Further, several high-ranking officials within the United Nations have said that they can do little to stop states using nuclear reactors to produce nuclear weapons. Treaty structure. The NPT consists of a preamble and 11 articles. Although the concept of pillars is not expressed anywhere in the NPT, the treaty is nevertheless sometimes interpreted as a 3-pillar system, with an implicit balance among them: non-proliferation, disarmament, and the right to peacefully use nuclear technology. The pillars concept has been questioned by some who believe that the NPT is, as its name suggests, principally about non-proliferation, and who worry that 3 pillars language misleadingly implies that the 3 elements have equivalent importance. First pillar, non-proliferation. 5 states are recognized by NPT as nuclear weapon states: China, France, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, and the United States. These 5 nations are also the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council. These 5 NWS agree not to transfer nuclear weapons or other nuclear explosive devices, and not in any way to assist, encourage, or induce a non-nuclear weapon state to acquire nuclear weapons. NWS parties to the NPT agree not to receive, manufacture, or acquire nuclear weapons, or to seek or receive any assistance in the manufacture of nuclear weapons. NWS parties also agree to accept safeguards by the International Atomic Energy Agency to verify that they are not diverting nuclear energy from peaceful uses to nuclear weapons or other nuclear explosive devices. The 5 NWS parties have made undertakings not to use the nuclear weapons against a non-NWS party except in response to a nuclear attack, or a conventional attack in alliance with a nuclear weapons state. However, these undertakings have not been incorporated formally into the treaty, and the exact details have varied over time. The U.S. also had nuclear warheads targeted at North Korea, a non-NWS, from 1959 until 1991. The previous United Kingdom Secretary of State for Defense, Jeff Hoon, has also explicitly invoked the possibility of the use of the country's nuclear weapons in response to a non-conventional attack by rogue states. In January 2006, President Jacques Chirac of France indicated that an incident of state-sponsored terrorism on France could trigger a small-scale nuclear retaliation aimed at destroying the rogue state's power centers. Second pillar, disarmament. Article 6 of the NPT represents the only binding commitment in a multilateral treaty to the goal of disarmament by the nuclear weapon states. The NPT's preamble contains language affirming the desire of treaty signatories to ease international tension and strengthen international trust so as to create someday the conditions for a halt to the production of nuclear weapons. A treaty on general and complete disarmament that liquidates, in particular, nuclear weapons and the delivery vehicles from national arsenals. The wording of the NPT's Article 6 arguably imposes only a vague obligation on all NPT signatories to move in the general direction of nuclear and total disarmament, saying, each of the parties to the treaty undertakes to pursue negotiations in good faith on effective measures relating to cessation of the nuclear arms race at an early date and to nuclear disarmament, and on a treaty on general and complete disarmament. Quote, under this interpretation, Article 6 does not strictly require all signatories to actually conclude a disarmament treaty. Rather, it only requires them to negotiate in good faith. On the other hand, some governments, especially non-nuclear weapon states belonging to the non-aligned movement, have interpreted Article 6's language as being anything but vague. In the view, Article 6 constitutes a formal and specific obligation on the NPT-recognized nuclear weapon states to disarm themselves of nuclear weapons, and argue that these states have failed to meet their obligation. The International Court of Justice, in its advisory opinion on the legality of the threat use of nuclear weapons, issued the 8th of July 1996, unanimously interprets the text of Article 6 as implying that there exists an obligation to pursue in good faith and bring to a conclusion negotiations leading to nuclear disarmament in all its aspects under strict and effective international control. The ICJ opinion notes that this obligation involves all NPT parties and does not suggest a specific time frame for nuclear disarmament. Critics of the NPT recognized nuclear weapon states sometimes argue that what they view as the failure of the NPT recognized nuclear weapon states to disarm themselves of nuclear weapons, especially in the post-Cold War era, has angered some non-nuclear weapon NPT signatories of the NPT. Such failure, these critics add, provides justification for the non-nuclear weapon signatories to quit the NPT and develop their own nuclear arsenals. Other observers have suggested that the linkage between proliferation and disarmament may also work the other way, i.e., that the failure to resolve proliferation threats in Iran and North Korea, for instance, will cripple the prospects for disarmament. No current nuclear weapons state, the argument goes, would seriously consider eliminating its last nuclear weapons without high confidence that other countries would not acquire them. Some observers have even suggested that the very progressive disarmament by the superpowers, which has led to the elimination of thousands of weapons and delivery systems, could eventually make the possession of nuclear weapons more attractive by increasing the perceived strategic value of a small arsenal. As one U.S. official and NPT expert warned in 2007, logic suggests that as the number of nuclear weapons decreases, the marginal utility of a nuclear weapon as an instrument of military power increases. At the extreme, which it is precisely disarmament's hope to create, the strategic utility of even one or two nuclear weapons would be huge. Third pillar: peaceful use of nuclear energy. The third pillar allows for and agrees upon the transfer of nuclear technology and materials to NPT signatory countries for the development of civilian nuclear energy programs in those countries, as long as they can demonstrate that the nuclear programs are not being used for the development of nuclear weapons. Since very few of the states with nuclear energy programs are willing to abandon the use of nuclear energy, the third pillar of the NPT under Article 4 provides other states with the possibility to do the same, but under conditions intended to make it difficult to develop nuclear weapons. The treaty recognizes the inalienable right of sovereign states to use nuclear energy for peaceful purposes, but restricts this right for NPT parties to be exercised in conformity with Articles I and II. As the commercially popular light water reactor nuclear power station uses enriched uranium fuel, it follows that states must be able either to enrich uranium or purchase it on an international market. Mohammad El-Baradei, then Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, has called the spread of enrichment and reprocessing capabilities the Achilles heel of the nuclear non-proliferation regime. As of 2007, 13 states have an enrichment capability, because the availability of fissile material has long been considered the principal obstacle to and pacing element for a country's nuclear weapons development effort. It was declared a major emphasis of U.S. policy in 2004 to prevent the further spread of uranium enrichment and plutonium reprocessing technology. Countries possessing ENR capabilities, it is feared, have what is in effect the option of using this capability to produce fissile material for weapons use on demand, thus giving them what has been termed a virtual nuclear weapons program. The degree to which NPT members have a right to NPT technology, notwithstanding its potentially grave proliferation implications, therefore, is at the cutting edge of policy and legal debates surrounding the meaning of Article 4 and its relation to Articles 1, 2, and 3 of the treaty. Countries that have signed the treaty as non-nuclear weapons states and maintain that status have an unbroken record of not building nuclear weapons. However, Iraq was cited by the IAEA with punitive sanctions enacted against it by the UN Security Council for violating its NPT safeguards obligations. North Korea never came into compliance with its NPT safeguards agreement and was cited repeatedly for these violations, and later withdrew from the NPT and tested multiple nuclear devices. Iran was found in non-compliance with its NPT safeguards obligations in an unusual non-consensus decision because it failed in a number of instances over an extended period of time to report aspects of its enrichment program, and Libya pursued a clandestine nuclear weapons program before abandoning it in December 2003. In 1991, Romania reported previously undeclared nuclear activities by the former regime, and the IAEA reported this non-compliance to the Security Council. For information only, in some regions, the fact that all neighbors are verifiably free of nuclear weapons reduces any pressure individual states might feel to build those weapons themselves, even if neighbors are known to have peaceful nuclear energy programs that might otherwise be suspicious. In this, the treaty works as designed. In 2004, Mohammed El-Baradei said that by some estimates 35 to 40 states could have the knowledge to develop nuclear weapons. Key articles. Article 1. Each nuclear weapons state undertakes not to transfer to any recipient nuclear weapons or other nuclear explosive devices, and not to assist any non-nuclear weapon state to manufacture or acquire such weapons or devices. Article 2. Each non-NWS party undertakes not to receive from any source nuclear weapons or other nuclear explosive devices, not to manufacture or acquire such weapons or devices, and not to receive any assistance in the manufacture. Article 3. Each non-NWS party undertakes to conclude an agreement with the IAEA for the application of its safeguards to all nuclear material in all of the states' peaceful nuclear activities, and to prevent diversion of such material to nuclear weapons or other nuclear explosive devices. Article 4. 1. Nothing in this treaty shall be interpreted as affecting the inalienable right of all the parties to the treaty to develop research, production and use of nuclear energy for peaceful purposes without discrimination and in conformity with Articles I and II of this treaty. 2. All the parties to the treaty undertake to facilitate and have the right to participate in the fullest possible exchange of equipment, materials and scientific and technological information for the peaceful uses of nuclear energy. Parties to the treaty in a position to do so shall also cooperate in contributing alone or together with other states or international organizations to the further development of the applications of nuclear energy for peaceful purposes, especially in the territories of non-nuclear weapon states party to the treaty, with due consideration for the needs of the developing areas of the world. Article 6. Each party undertakes to pursue negotiations in good faith on effective measures relating to cessation of the nuclear arms race at an early date, and to nuclear disarmament, and on a treaty on general and complete disarmament under strict and effective international control. Article 10 establishes the right to withdraw from the treaty giving 3 months' notice. It also establishes the duration of the treaty.